Netflix recently announced that Squid Game, a South Korean TV show about the dangers of capitalism, is now their most watched show ever with 111 million viewers. The show has spawned an explosion of discourse and memes around the internet, with a high-profile star like Lebron James publicly sharing his opinion. However, how did the Squid Game all come to life? What tools, gadgets, costumes, and props were used to create the TV show? In this video, we are going to discuss the top gadgets used to make Squid Game. But before we dive in, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. You wouldn't want to miss out on any of our awesome content, would you? Number 10. Stairway Maze. Squid Game's Stairway Maze is an iconic part of the show now. Even people who haven't watched the show can easily identify it and tell you where it's from. It arises due to the brilliant combination of set design, art direction, and cinematography. It represents the pathway through which players walk when heading towards a new game. It is a shockingly bright and convoluted set piece, intended to represent the confusion that's a general theme of the whole show. The Stairway Maze belongs in this video simply because of how iconic it is. It represents the show on an artistic and intellectual level. In this way, as with everything else we are yet to discuss, it has transformed into a powerful piece of marketing for the show. People see pictures and images of it and immediately start wondering what they're watching. It's intriguing, for all the right reasons though. Number 9. Disconnected Road. The Disconnected Road is another set piece that represents a stage for one of the show's games. It was featured in the 4th episode of the show, in which the players were split into 2 teams often. The game played on the Disconnected Bridge is Tug of War or DDAKJI. Though not exclusive to South Korea, it is traditionally played in the country on the occasion of the Lunar New Year to usher in a bountiful harvest. The set on which the game takes place, the disconnected blacktop roadway, was not just a brilliant set piece but a metaphor for the show as well. It represented the show's theme of people who are abandoned and forced to live on the streets. As brilliant a part of the show as the set is, it was almost never used. Right until the last moment, the crew considered staging the game on top of an abandoned school. It's a good thing they refrained from that, as the Disconnected Road makes sense for the story. Number 8. Replica of the 70s and 80s Korean house. In the show, one of the episodes features a marbles game which takes place in a replica of the 70s, 80s Korean house. It was one of the most difficult sets to construct for the show. The set idea is said to come from the director's idea of wanting to recall the alleys from his childhood and elicit nostalgia. The set brilliantly juxtaposes 2D elements with 3D elements to create moments of confusion. As the setting for one of the most emotional moments in the whole show, it's definitely memorable. Number 7. Glass Bridge. The glass bridge is featured in the 7th episode of the show. The actors have reported that it was the most unsettling set as it had a high level of realism. The crew used real tampered glass elevated above the floor. This realism made the game quite real to the actors, and some stated that they felt real fear. For this game, players were tasked with walking across the glass bridges with the faulty steps. It's a game inspired by children's games like hopscotch. Obviously, the realism of this set is what makes it memorable. In addition to the twisted nature of the game, players can win by crossing the bridge, and they can only advance by choosing one of 2 steps ahead of them. One step is loose, while the other is pretty solid. Talk about taking hopscotch to the next level, eh? Number 6. Origami DDAKJI tiles. If you're someone who consumes a large amount of South Korean visual media, chances are you know what DDAKJI is. If not, well, Squid Game introduces a kids game and establishes its rules pretty well. No, you don't have to stake money or pin every time you play. Just the act of trying to flip over an origami tile by throwing another tile at it is surprisingly exhilarating. DDAKJI is similar to the American game of Pogs that was popular in the 90s. Part of the popularity is due to how simple it is to play. Once you have a paper, you can play DDAKJI. The papers need to be folded in a particular way, but hey, tutorials shouldn't be hard to find. The game likely gained traction in the 1940s when an increased supply of paper, while folded, DDAKJI became a staple children's game as thick, durable paper spread after the Korean War. Number 5. DALGONA candy. In one of the episodes of Squid Game, the players are given a candy known as DALGONA candy. DALGONA candy, which is sugary toffee with a light, rigid, sponge-like texture, is also known as honeycomb toffee. It has 2 main ingredients, sugar and baking soda. In the show, the candy is given to players with a shape inscribed on its side, and they are tasked with licking the shape free. The series creator, Hwang Dong-hyu, said he used to do something similar when he was younger. This is the inspiration that caused him to come up with this particular game of the show. DALGONA candy was part of the South Korean cuisine. Now, though, it's gaining international popularity due to the Squid Game, of course. Number 4. An oversized doll. There's a scene in the first episode of the Squid Game that serves as a pretty important part of the show. It's in this scene that the audience comes to understand the gravity of the entire show and what exactly is at stake. At the center of a scene is a giant animatronic doll. The doll represents the juxtaposition of the playful and the macabre in a really shocking way. The doll itself is a real doll that is available to be visited by the public. It can be found in Jinchuan County, a rural area around 3 hours north of Seoul. The doll guards the entrance of a horse carriage museum. However, it was borrowed by the producers of the show for the filming of that scene. I'm sure the doll will haunt many people's nightmares for years to come. Number 3. Blue and green screens. Blue and green screens aren't unique to Squid Game. They've been a staple of the film and television industry for decades now. However, they brought the world of Squid Game to life in a pretty significant manner. Although the show is largely filmed indoors on constructed sets, there's a next level realism to them, making you think the cast is actually on a privately owned labyrinthine island. These blue and green screens are used for visual effects work. They help visual effects artists fill out the world of the show. They have been used on pretty much everything at this point, starting with like the Avengers, Star Wars. They use it the most effectively though. Photos of the set of the Squid Game before any visual effects work was done have been released to the public. By comparing this to the finished product, one can't help but appreciate how these devices help build the interesting world of the show. Number 2. Costumes. Although not a gadget per se, the Squid Game costumes are just another iconic aspect of the show. As the end of the month approaches, more and more green and red tracksuits are selling out, as many people intend to make Halloween costumes out of them. Squid Game isn't the first Netflix show to feature costumes of this sort. As a matter of fact, Money Heist, another Netflix hit, features something similar, and this might have been a tip-off to the development folks at the studio to greenlight the South Korean show after 11 years of it not being able to find a home. The green color for the tracksuits was chosen based on the green color from a popular political movement in Korea, the Saemal movement. They were also modeled after the tracksuits children wore on field days at school during the 1970s. Number 1. Business cards. A calling card might seem like such a basic item. However, in this show, it acts as one of the most important plot elements ever. The card is simple, brown, with an inscription of a triangle, circle, and a square on one face and a number of the other face. The show creator, Wong Dong-hyuk, said that his source of inspiration for those shapes was a computer game joystick. To be honest, it looks like a PlayStation inspiration though. It was a smart way to sneak in the game motif without being too overt. As for the number, well, that's another story. It turns out the number featured in the shows was actually a real number, and given the show's popularity, it received over 4,000 calls a day. The owner of the number complained about this, and Netflix reacted by removing the number from the show. However, a South Korean presidential candidate offered to buy the number from its irritated owner for about $85,000. Alright, so we have come to the end of this video. We hope the gadgets discussed above shed some light on how exactly Squid Game was made. It's definitely a great show, and you should check it out if you haven't already. Well, that just about wraps it up. Please make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share if you enjoyed the video. This way you support the channel and never miss out on any of our awesome content. Until next time, have a great day. Catch you later!